Thanks, guys. My name's Mitch Cullen, also known as Fingers. And yeah, I'm just from Albany, just, yeah, you know where that is.
Damn, that kid rock. All right, where we at? Well, hell, I gotta shut him up. I'll be able to be listening to him throughout the entire broadcast. Hey, Clint, good to see you. Hope everybody can hear me okay. Had to make some adjustments from Open Pagan Church this morning. System had a little conniption hemorrhoid there. We're just now dead up on the hour, 8 p.m. Central Time, Sunday night. Hope everybody is doing well. Of course, pardon me. Like I say, this is Live with the Shaman, place where you can come and get insubordination with or without a smile. We typically don't pay a whole lot of attention to political correctness out here. So if you're watching our series, we are in part 5 of our astral travel series. Clint, if you would like, we can check out your computer after the broadcast. It's up to you. Let's see, come around over here, hit this button, blah blah blah. Alright, text sent. back over to the show. Don't you guys just love it when people type while they are on a broadcast? Yeah, well. For those of you that'll be watching the pre-recorded version later, please be sure and put your questions, comments, points of view, what have you in the chat area. For those of you that might be watching the archive on YouTube, well, come over to the Facebook and put your comments or questions, or you can put them down at the bottom and I'll get to them as soon as I can. What are we doing? What are we talking about? Ooh, Live with the Shaman, Part 5, Astral College and Library. The library is also known as the Hall of Records, the Acoustic Records, and a few other. The Astral College is known as the training field, not necessarily the battlefield, that comes later, but the training and the Astral College where you can learn things about past. And what I recommend you do, and this is something I always did, especially when I first started out. When I first met my master in the astral, my trainer, and we started talking about things that happened in the past, I would take what I learned in the astral, and I would, of course back then it was Yahoo, that was pre-Google, but I would Yahoo it. Well, it seems kind of weird, doesn't it? We say Google it today. I would Yahoo it, check it out on the internet, and compare the history or his story in accordance to what the master in the astrals would teach me. I would say a good 65 to 75% of the time there was a real close balance. Real close balance. So I was trying to kill a moment or two and let a few other people get in here. I guess they partied a little too much over the weekend. I know I'm a little sore this evening. We put a 3-inch lift kit in my Jeep over the weekend, front and rear. When I say we, I mean my wife and I. We averaged about an hour and a half per wheel getting the 3-inch lift kit installed. It was an interesting beatdown, I'll tell you. What other news do we have? Oh, November 12th. Sunday, November 12th, I will be doing a best of Live with the Shaman. I'll be going back through some of the topics, maybe hitting on some of the highlights we covered through the year, maybe revisiting some of the topics with just a quick snippet. We're not going to blare off into an entire discussion, just a couple of quick snippets of things that we covered, kind of a review, if you will. But November 12th will be our series, what do they call it? Series finale. That'll be it. Live with the Shaman is not going off the air by any means. I will just be taking a hiatus after November 12th till the first part of the year 2018. We have a major move that needs to be taking place, and I unfortunately, I'll try to do church as I can, but there'll be some mornings I may have to do church on my cell phone or on my tablet because all of my computer equipment is tore down. Yeah, it'll be up to other members of the Grove of the Celtic Shaman, also family of the Grove of the Celtic Shaman. If you want to do presentations or what have you on Live with the Shaman, you'll need to send me a PM, email, message, text, something, and I will set you up as a broadcaster. I need to find out why Clint is having problems broadcasting, so we'll figure that out, and I may post a quick how-to broadcast in the middle of the week on Live with the Shaman. Right. So, buggering on, we've wasted enough time. Astral College, what is it? Where is it? How does it work? And can you access it? Um, um, well, what is it? It is what it says it is. It is a place and it looks differently to individual people. To me, I've never actually seen a building of the Astral College. Never have seen a building. The Astral College for me has always been my master trainer or my master teacher, if you will, sitting on a bench just at the opening in the woods. We sit, we talk, and he shows me things. Rather interesting because we're sitting there and we're talking, and he'll say, "Look here," and he'll flop his fingers, and kind of a television screen looking thing will come up where we can sit there and watch videos, pause, rewind, fast forward, change channels through the years. It's rather interesting. But then again, I'm a bit of a techno geek anyway, so it would make sense to me that my Astral College would be technologically advanced, even though my teacher, my maestral in the astral, he looks like he's probably a couple hundred years old, if that. Of course, he'll probably smack me next time I slide through. Where is the Astral College? Again, the Astral College is essentially wherever your astral takes you, whatever's comfortable for your mind to absorb. Some people want an actual physical building where you can go into and sit down and have classroom setting where you've got different teachers that teach different things. Me, I always found that to be a bit of a waste of time and a bit of a pain in the ass, as it were. So my Astral College, the way I see it myself, is like I say, comfortable bench, edge of the forest, beautiful smells, light breeze, master sitting there throwing blitz up on the screen. Occasionally we would go for a walk, meet other people in other villages to see how they live, how they practice their own faith. So it's kind of cool. So again, how you see the Astral College is up to you, right? Hey, Cynthia. Cindy, I'm sorry. Shit, reading the word instead of who it is. So, the Astral College is accessible, by anyone. Once you gain access to the astral, and you put in your mind's eye, or tell spirit guide as I do, I'd like to spend some time in the Astral College. When I first did it, when I first achieved the introduction to my master, I asked point blank. I had read about the Astral College and talked to people about things they had seen. So I asked spirit guide, who is my teacher? Who is my trainer? And he kind of smiled, I guess, as he would do, and said, "Come with me." So we got up out of the astral garden. I took one step, and I'm in a field, sitting on a bench over on the other side of the meadow. It's a very gray-haired gentleman, really nice, really soft-spoken, very calm. Since probably 2000 or '01, I don't think I've ever seen the gentleman angry, upset, or aggravated, which is saying something, because I can be a bit of a snit. When we're in training, I have something I want to say, or I disagree with the training. I tend to say what's on my mind, with respect, of course. And the one thing I have always said since the beginning of this series is what? Respect. Respect every piece in the astral, everyone you meet, everything you do, every place you go. respect. Clint says mine is a combination, probably talking about buildings, forest, meadow, whatever. Cindy says seeing the college is a tall building on one side. Side was fire pits and ponds. Fire pits and ponds. That's an interesting combination. Excuse my allergies. On the other side, she says. Yep. So, everyone's college, everyone's view of their college is going to be slightly different from that of someone else's. So, have you noticed? Dun dun dun. Have you noticed? Not everyone's astral landing, college, is exactly the same. The visual is not exactly the same. The experience is not always exactly the same. Why is that? I don't know. Never figured it out, never tried to figure it out. I just went with it. So what are some other things we need to talk about the Astral College? Now, does the Astral College have anything to do with the training in the battlefield of the astral? Sure it does. I ask again, does the Astral College have anything to do with the training on the battlefield of the astral? Sure it does. Depending on who your master is for your battle training, depending on who your master is for your educational training, and depending also on who your master is for your spiritual training. Now, understand this. Even if you have a human teacher, which I strongly recommend, even if you have a human teacher on this plane, you will still also have an astral teacher of spiritualism. And that's kind of what we're talking about this evening. I will break into the Akashic records. Excuse me. I'll break into the Akashic records here in a minute. What I want to do right now, though, I want to take a look at something. I want to check something out and make sure I'm on my timing. Give me just a moment while I click and poke. I digress. Who, me? Let's see. Battlefield, meeting hall and council, astral family, astral sexuality, astral review. Okay. Alright, yeah. Wanted to be sure I wasn't going to step on another chapter that I had set. Okay. So, meeting your master trainer, and the astral. Your master is going to give you guidance in how to learn. And one of the biggest things that I always wanted to satisfy in students is, and I did the same thing when I taught computer classes for many years, I want to teach you how to learn. I mean, I can teach you all day long that 1 plus 1 is 2-ish, depending on your theory. Sometimes 1 plus 1 is 0. Sometimes 1 plus 1 is 1. It depends on your philosophical ideology and how you look at 1 plus 1. I'll let you work on that one. Alright, so when you meet your astral master, your trainer, what do you say, Dave? Your astral master is going to be your master trainer. He or she is going to give you ideas, some of the things that might better suit you. And what I always did was I always sat down with hey Garrett, welcome aboard. Kind of catch up, right? What I always did when I sit down with Master, especially for the first time, I ask him, so what are your expectations of me? And it's a real logical question. It's a respectful question. But I wanted to know what my master trainer in the astral expected of me. And it was real simple. He said, my expectations of you, son, are this: honor, ask thoughtful questions, don't blow questions off the seat of your ass just because you want to try to say something, respect, and listen. And he cocked an eyebrow when he said listen, and I don't know where the hell that come from. I always listen. Mostly. Most of the time. Sometimes. Part of the time. When it suits me, I listen. No, I listen most of the time. But anyway, so what I have honor, thoughtful questions. And boy, let me tell you what, my master in the astral, you blow a question off the seat of your ass just to try to be asking something to sound good. The outcome wasn't happy. Respect, right? I never knew and don't know his name, and I don't care. I'm perfectly fine calling him master. And it's not master as in making me feel less a human being. It's master just simply of me showing respect to my master trainer. My master trainer introduced me to my teacher of spiritual wisdom. Now here's where it gets a little sticky. Okay? Here's where it gets a whole great big of variable idealistic philosophies. So I'm going to come at it from my point of view. You take it from your point of view. And those of you that are watching the videos and are experiencing astral for the first time, damn, my voice quit. Kind of hang with me here. Just kind of go with me for a minute. When Master introduced me to my trainer of spiritual wisdom, I did not have a teacher on this plane. I had looked, I had asked questions, I never found anyone, unfortunately, that I trusted in enough to teach me. So what I did was, on this plane, is everyone I met, just like today, everyone I met, everyone I meet, teaches me something. Good, bad, or indifferent. Everyone has a lesson to learn from everyone. Now, my master on the astral worked a lot like my counselor. I would go to him with problems and issues and completely, totally mixed up thoughts and ideas, and he would work me through them. Well, then when he was done with me, he would send me to my teacher of spiritual wisdom. And I say spiritual wisdom because think about my semantics of where wisdom comes from, right? Education. Anything that is taught by a book or another person. Education. Knowledge. Anything that is taught by life experiences, right? Education, knowledge, wisdom. So it's understanding the combination of the two, okay? Education and knowledge coming together to be wisdom. my trainer of spiritual wisdom taught me and teaches me even today how to take what I learn in the educated world and what I learn in the knowledge world or in experience, what have you, and how to bring it together as a wisdom, as an understanding that I can use in this plane to deal with everyday life. So that is the purpose of my spiritual teacher of wisdom. Now, we're still in the Astral College. I haven't even talked about the Akashic Records yet. We'll get there. So who's that? The Master, the teacher of spiritual wisdom, and then the teacher of understanding the battle. Not the war. The war is too big to talk about. But each time we go into battle with each segment of our lives, we have to make a decision how to fight. And I will be discussing this in which chapter? Let me go back and look. Sorry. Please bear with me. Dun dun dun. You know, I don't know why I don't just leave the damn page open. I was a shaman. Chapter events. Next week, chapter 6. So, next week we will be talking about the astral battlefield. And that is when I will talk about the meeting with my number 3 teacher in the Astral College, which is the teacher of the astral battle. How to train in battle. What's some of the things that happen in battle? What are some of the things you can expect when you wake up from practicing all evening in the astral battle? So, stepping back to the college, the Astral College, it's a lot to cover, and the best way to understand the Astral College is to not try to understand it at all. I say that again, the best way to understand the Astral College is to not try to understand it at all. Take it for what it is. In all honesty, I have known people that have attempted to achieve access to the Astral College for 2 or 3 years, and they never have made it past their master. Now, I can presume reasons why, but I don't know. And I tell them, you're gonna have to figure out on your own and ask your master why you have not moved on to meet your trainers in the Astral College. Now, he will probably, or she will probably smack you upside the head with, well, probably because you have not listened. Garrett says Astral College. To confirm this, relatable to the Akashic Records. Fixing to get there. Garrett, we're gonna be covering the Akashic Records here shortly. I wanted to cover the Astral College first, and no, the Akashic Records is not in or the same genre, if you will, as the Astral College. You do learn in the Akashic Records, don't get me wrong. We're going to cover that in depth, probably in about 3 minutes, right? Because I'm winding up on the Astral College. Now, so to close on the Astral College conversation, basically the Astral College is a place of learning, and it's a place of coming together of education, knowledge, and wisdom. Again, what are they? Education is anything taught to you by a book, any kind of literature, or another human being. That is education. Got it? Knowledge. Knowledge is anything learned through life experiences. Knowledge is the knowledge that you have combined from living your life in this lifetime and other lifetimes. Knowledge. The combination of education and knowledge is wisdom. And the understandability of the use of that wisdom. That I have found is learned a lot. I learned a lot of it with my masters in the astral. And for me personally, your astral will, I'm sure, vary. But for me personally, I have a master, right? I have a trainer of spiritual wisdom. And then I have a trainer of astral battle or self-defense or whatever you want to call it, which will be next week, chapter 6, or well, part 6. Right. So let's take a minute. Take a breather. Astral College, right? Part 1, chapter 5, part 1 of part 5. However the hell you want to look at it. We need to keep these things relatively lighthearted. Now, granted, in teaching mode, sometimes I do tend to get serious as shit, but at the same time, I try to keep these videos, these broadcasts, kind of lighthearted, because a lot of the times the guys we're getting, they don't know the difference between astral and out-of-body experience, right? Also known as astral or OBE. Some of them may have watched Charmed too many times and think that astral projection is sending your spirit from here to the bedroom. Sorry, that's OBE, out-of-body experience. Out-of-body experience is done on this plane, on the earth plane, sending your spirit from one physical location to the other. Love Charmed. Wonderful program. Kind of like Bewitched and the Blair Witch Project and Practical Magic. A whole lot of people thought that's what witchcraft was all about, and that's what magic is. No. No. In case you didn't hear me the first time, no. Right. Onward and upward. I can feel you guys out there chomping at the bit. Acoustic record. Acoustic record. Talk about the acoustic record, you son of a bitch. Quit sitting there jacking your jaws, you toothless fucker. Talk about the acoustic records. Okay. Well, that's the end of the show. Y'all have a good night. We'll talk to you next time. No. Right? No? We're not done? Are we not? Drum. Cindy said drum. Right. So we're not done. I thought we were done. What else was it? Oh, the acoustic records. Yeah. The Astral Library. Acoustic records. The Hall of Records, depending on what you've read, what you've experienced, what you've looked at. What is it? Where is it? And how the hell does it work? Well, where it is, it's in the astral. What it is, booby. Clint, dude, you're wrong for that. Anyway, onward. What it is the astral library. the Akashic Records, it is in the realm of the Akashic Records. It has its own realm. It has its own veil guardians. It has its own guardians of the gates. This place makes Fort Knox look like a kitty pen. The reason it is so damn protected is because it carries the history of every human ever lived on the planet. It carries the information about you and every time you've ever lived on the planet. What you reincarnated to. Did you have to spend some time in purgatory to learn a lesson that your dumbass didn't learn in the last incarnation? Or are you a brand new spirit? If you are, more power to you. Rock and roll. You can see roughly how many lifetimes you've had, what they were, what you did, mistakes you made most of the time. The screwed up part of it is, now here's a bit of a disclaimer. Listen up real close. This is where that little bitty fine print is down at the bottom that the librarian never tells you about the first time you go into the Akashic Records. Even though you looked up while you were in the Great Hall of the library, even though you looked up your prior lifetimes in history, and even though you had conversations about that lifetime in history with your spiritual trainer in the Astral College, that gives no guarantee that you will remember it when you come out of astral meditation on this plane. Clint says his is known as a place of records. Okay. But I want to make sure that you heard what I said a second ago. Just because you set out to go to the Akashic Records to research yourself and find out where you've been, what you've done, some of the things that you've done in the past, the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And even though you know for a fact you have discussed what you found out with your master, if you have one, your trainer of spiritual wisdom, if you have one, or your teacher of whatever sort. You know you discussed this with them. You know that they gave you some guidance on how to accept it. And you come back to this plane, you land in your body, you're feeling all good for yourself because you actually made it to the Hall of Records, the Akashic Records, the place of records, whatever you call it. You met the librarian, be it a male or a female, whatever, depending on who's on duty, or what's on duty. Anyway. But you come out of meditation and you don't remember shit. I've had that happen. More times than I damn well care to remember or admit, but I've had it happen a bunch. There are certain governed laws of living an existence on this plane, in this day and time, in this lifetime. There are rules and laws that govern a certain separation of the life plane from the astral plane. And sometimes the librarian of the Akashic Records will not allow the human brain to remember what the spirit mind learned in the astral. Now, folks, this drove me batshit crazy for about 2 years, trying to figure out what in the hell was going on. I know I'm crazy, and that's okay. I like being crazy. But the idea that I could remember precise spoken conversation with Master. The idea that I could remember precise spoken conversation with my spiritual teacher. And the fact that I could not remember all spoken conversation with the librarian irritated the shit out of me. It drove me crazy. Ish. Again, still some more. Whatever. But what's the simplest thing you could do there? Ask the master. Duh. Ask your teacher of spiritual wisdom. Duh. After about, 2 years, maybe 3 of beating my head against a freaking brick wall trying to remember why or understand why I could not remember all of my past lifetimes. Some of the things I could. Some of the things the librarian would allow me to come back with. Some of the things she would not. It just irritated the hell out of me. What's the easiest way to get that information? Ask the master of the Astral College. That's what they're there for. So I asked him. And his wonderful, non-descript, non-emotional words were simple. There are things, my son, that you're just not ready to know as a human being. What? And he looks at me with this very somber old guy look. And he says, "Did you not hear me?" "Yes, sir. I heard you. But what all of the things that I have seen and experienced in this lifetime, for me, the things that I've seen and experienced and done and witnessed and helped astral warriors do on the battlefield, just in this lifetime, why wouldn't I be able to understand what is stored in the astral and the library and the Akashic Records? Why would the librarian not allow me to take that data, that information with me? And he said, "I already answered that. Because there are some things that your human mind will not and cannot handle. Yet." And he always said yet. Okay, fine. Clint says, what I need to know, I will know as I need it. I learned that from you. Right. Hmm. Spoken from the student. I am the teacher. I want to know these things, and I want to know them now. Master says, tough shit. You'll know them when it's time. So keep that in mind, my young Padawans, as you are traversing the acoustic records. Understand that there are some things that the librarian will not let you take out. The librarian will never let you take out written records because, of course, duh, you're there in spirit. You can't bring the shit across the spirit plane to the physical plane that you can hold in your hand. Not going to happen. Forget it. Okay. So there is your basic idea, philosophy, and rules of the acoustic records. Now, how do you get there? How do you get the key to entry to the acoustic records? Hi, Michelle. What do you think? How do you get access to the Astral Library, the acoustic records, the Hall of Records? It's stupid simple, but anybody want to kick in? How do you get the key to access the acoustic records in the Astral? Any takers? No? Nobody? Anybody? Guess not. Here we go. Ha ha! Ha ha! Garrett. Got it. You asked for it. Dun dun dun. You asked for it. Me? I've talked before about the veils. My training has always been you enter the guardian of the veil. Even now, as long as I've been going to the acoustic records, not so often now, but for the longest time, it was every night, every 2 or 3 nights, 2 or 3 times a week, 3 or 4 times a month. I would simply ask for a landing at the acoustic records outside, and I would knock on the door. The guardian would come to the door, see that it's me. I've been coming in there for years. Welcome. And for me, I don't know about you, but for me, I'd never approach the acoustic records as my spirit self. I never approach the acoustic records as Pegasus. I never approach the acoustic records as Chinook. I always approach the acoustic records as Don. Just plain old bearded me. And the reason for that is I want my human self to remember as much as possible of the data and information that I'm going to find out in the acoustic records. So, you ask for it. You ask for entry. You ask for guidance to the location of the acoustic records. Some don't worry about the veil. They land at the steps of the acoustic records. To me, it is the most beautiful, never-ending building you could ever imagine. I was asked one time if there was any possible thing I could parallel the Akashic records with? Yes, there is. I'm a big fan of the series Warehouse 13. I'm a really big fan of the series Warehouse 13. Warehouse 13 kind of sort of reminds me of the Akashic records, except the the artifacts of the Akashic records I have never been allowed to see. I've heard they exist. I've heard they're there. I've heard they're on one of the levels in the Astral Library. I've heard that some people have access to them, some do not. I never bothered. I asked once, and then it didn't really bother me one way or the other from then on because I was too interested in reading through my history, which I find rather colorful. A lot of it I don't remember. A lot of it I do remember is quite colorful. Yeah. Um, I've heard people talk about they saw one lifetime they were a rock. Okay. Um, I've heard people talk about they saw one lifetime they were a dragon. Okay. One lifetime, one guy I met was a horse. Another lifetime, somebody was a chicken. Another lifetime, somebody was a salamander, a cat, dog. I've heard them all, right? Me, I've always been reincarnated as a human, one kind or another, in one place or another all around the world. Um, my understanding is, I think, if I remember correctly, that this is my first trip as an American in this lifetime. I have traveled physically back to the homelands of Scotland. Get off the plane, bang, I'm at home. I seem to just kind of know where I'm going and what I'm doing for the most part. A lot of the castles and places that we went to my first trip over started a whole boatload of flashback memories of things that I had seen in the astral, in the Akashic records, that I didn't think I remembered. Right. So what we cover? Where it is, okay? The Akashic records is in the realm of Akashic records. It has an entire realm all to and of itself. That's where it is. How do we get to it? You ask. How do you gain entrance? You ask. You don't just go tromping your ass up the stairs of the Akashic records and go in the door like you think it's a public freaking library. There ain't shit public about it. And if you dishonor the Akashic records, you've pissed off more than one or two big badass spirits and guardians that will drop kick your metaphysical ass all the way back to this plane, and it will hurt. So I've been told. That's one of the few things I've never been stupid enough to do in the astral is challenge the librarian. Now, I'm big, I'm bad, and I'm stupid. And when people hit me, I'm not smart enough to stay down. I always get up and want to come back for more. Well, when the librarian looks at you and says, what you're looking for is on aisle so and so, row such and such, drawer number such and such. You write that down. Unless you got a photographic memory, you write it down. Aisle so and so, row such and such, drawer so and so. Got it. Thank you. And you bugger off. You go through, you pull out what you're looking for. And the amazing thing in my astral is this. Now, I have gone into the Akashic records at times, and there be nobody there. This place is huge. Massive. Nobody there. Then again, I've gone into the Acoustic Records, and the damn thing is busier than 635 in Dallas and rush hour traffic. And if any of you know who or where or what I'm talking about, you get it. However, the interesting part of the Acoustic Records is once you've asked the librarian what it is you're looking for, or you've walked in there and not said doodly squat. Now, this is what I love. Okay? You walk in, you greet the librarian. Hi, how are you? She or he will say, I'm doing quite well, thank you. This is what you need. And I've had them slide me a piece of paper with row such and such, aisle so and so, drawer such and such. Really? How, I start to say, how did you know what I only asked that once? And I got the look. I am the librarian. Here, this is what you need to research today. Okay, thank you. Slide across the table, pocket, pucker off. And I get what I need. Now, for me, here's the here's the fascinating part. I don't know about for you. I've heard tell that some people just go through the rows of books, find a book with their human name on it of this lifetime, they pull it down, they come straight down onto a carrier because some bitches are big and heavy, and they take it to a table where you may have 1,000 people sitting at the table. But what's fascinating is you can't see what they're reading. It's none of your friggin' business. If you try to open up someone else's drawer or pull someone else's book, you can't. Or I can't. I only tried a couple of times just because I was curious. You know, my students that were oath to me, I'll tell you right here on open channel, I've told you to your face. I've attempted to pull your book in the Astral. Strictly for no other reason other than to help teach you. Didn't happen. I found your book, but I could not get it off the shelf. Okay. Go get my own damn book. Mine comes out of a drawer. It's a drawer probably about that wide, about that tall, about that deep. And I pull it out, and the strangest damn thing happens. I pull it out. It's heavy as hell. I sit it on the trolley, and when I sit it on the trolley, it goes bloop into a big, massive ass book. Okay. So I drag my trolley over to my section of the table, and I look for an empty chair. It doesn't matter where, because no one's going to be able to see what you're reading, and you're damn sure not going to be able to see what they're reading. You can see the book, right? Check it out. You know, your chairs are sitting real close. I mean, they are definite one for space saver, I'll tell you. But your chairs are sitting real close. You got plenty of elbow room. You're not going to touch anybody. And you sit there and you break out your book, and it's this great massive son of a bitch, right? And you flip open the first page, and it starts to light up with all of these words and pictures and writing and explanations and, you know, descriptions and what have you. And you notice the other person has a book, and the other person has a book, and the person in front across from you has a book, but the damn thing is white blank pages. There's nothing on it. But they're seeing it. They are seeing their writing. Now, that's how you get information in the Acoustic Records. Now, the question is always asked. It never fails. Always ask. Can I view family members, loved ones, Akashic records? Can I view their lifetimes? Can I look at their past? No. Well, I say no, but you can if you have explicit permission from the individual. If you have explicit permission from the individual, you can. Now, what this means is, and I will warn you heavily, respect. Respect their wishes, respect their privacy, and respect their information. Seriously. If you have permission, like my students have given to me, to view their astral past, to view their information in the Akashic records, the only thing that I ever look at is the things that I can do to better help them and things that they've been through in their past, usually mostly just in this lifetime. Because in prior lifetimes, I figure we'll learn that as we go along. So, here we are, almost straight up to the hour. It's been a good conversation. But I want to remind you, whether you're entering the Astral College and meeting your masters for the first time, or whether you're entering the Akashic records and meeting the librarian for the first time, I am seriously going to remind you, respect, respect, respect. If the librarian asks you a question, I strongly recommend you answer that question with respect. If the masters and the trainers in the Astral College ask you a question, if you know the answer, give it. If you don't, it's okay to say, Master, I'm sorry, I don't know. I do not know the answer to that question. The Astral College and the Astral Library, or the Akashic Records, or the Hall of Records, whatever you call it, is not a place for arrogance and bullshit. Remember that. And folks, as always, thank you for watching our broadcast here on Live with the Shaman. Your comments are always open and appreciated. We thank you for watching. We'll see you next week here on Live with the Shaman.